a little bit about who we are and why we're running the event. So Software Freedom Day is an international celebration that's going on in, I'm sure, at least dozens of cities across the world. Probably even more than dozens. It's been going on since 2004, and this is the first one that I've helped organize a celebration of. I'm really happy to have done that. And Deb and I did this as part of the OpenHatch project, which is about getting more contributors into free software. So that's why we have these Ignite talks coming up after Máirin's talk. But I want to take a second to introduce Máirín. And Máirin's work on the Fedora design team and her work in outreach and free software has been a big inspiration to what we do at OpenHatch in terms of the strategy she's used and the goals she's had. So without any further ado, I'd like to give Máirín a hand.
Hello. So I'm here now. I'm sure some of the folks in the audience here are currently involved with free software projects, and I'm hoping some of you aren't yet involved yet, but are interested in getting started. This talk is about sort of a case study of what I did to try to get more new contributors into an area of free software that's maybe not as heavily focused on, and that's design. So let me tell you a little bit about who I am. I think she gave me a very nice intro. I'm a designer with Red Hat. I've been there for quite a while. And people don't know how to pronounce my name, so you can just call me Mo. That's fine with me. What am I talking about, right? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about, again, sort of a case study of what we did in Fedora to try to recruit more designers to the project. They're not coders. I think a lot of free software recruitment is very code focused, and this is sort of a way that I try to get more non-coders. And you know, if you need more contributors for your project, you might get some ideas from the approach that I took. If you are interested in getting involved in a project that doesn't take this approach, you know, this is something where it might give you an idea what questions you might want to ask the project and how you might want to get started and introduced, even if they don't have this kind of project in place. And if you have any questions at any point, please just, you know, shout them out, raise your hand. I want to keep this kind of important. So the first problem we had with trying to recruit new designers to our project was a sort of a chicken and egg thing, because you need designers to attract designers, but if you don't have designers, then how are you going to get designers to attract more designers? So it's sort of a bit of a chicken and egg problem. Another issue is that you don't have a lot of designers, so the designers that you have a little bit on their shoulders, and recruitment might not be their top priority just because, you know, everything else is sort of crashing around and they have such a big workload. And you know, they're so tired that they don't have the time to really fully devote to doing recruitment right. So this kind of leaves a lot of really excellent would-be contributors a little bit lost without the guidance that they really need, because the people who can help them just don't have the time and energy to actually do that. So you know, just sort of a little bit of a summary, right? We didn't have enough designers to attract more. If you want more of something, you need some of it already to get them to feel comfortable in your community. The ones that we did have were overloaded, too overloaded to enable new recruits, and it's very easy to get lost if you don't even know where to start. So a long time ago, actually, when I was in college and I was first trying to get involved with free software, one of the things that I remembered was that Novell had actually started a set of bounties for working on GNOME. And they kind of identified stuff like, you know, write the birthday and anniversary calendar backend for evolution. And I had been excited at the time about these bounties because they outlined things that the community actually wanted, right? Because as a designer, you know, I can design whatever that I feel like doing, but if the developer isn't interested in implementing it, I'm just wasting my time. It's not going to happen, you know? So, you know, new contributors really want to work on stuff that's helpful and it's going to be meaningful to the people already in the project. And the people already in the project, you know, are going to actually, you know, participate with them in developing. You don't want to just go in cold and just pick something, and then it turns out that they had just rewritten that, you know, a month ago, and they're not interested in changing it. outlined things that the core developers actually wanted that would be actually useful for them. The problem back then was that I wasn't a coder. So, I couldn't really participate in this. But I thought, well, what if, we did this for designers? What if we kind of scoped out small projects that were really well defined and kind of provided all the resources that the person participating would need to complete it, and but make it a design task, don't make it a coding task. So I tried to write up the first bounty, and at the time Fedora 13 was maybe in beta, and maybe if you're already involved in the community, you know Mel Chua. She's awesome. And she was trying to put together marketing materials for Fedora 13's release. So she came to me, and she just sort of opened up, Open Office, and she typed out some interviews with different developers, and she wanted sort of a little packet that she could hand out that had all the information about these interviews with developers. And she said, I wrote all this content, but it kind of needs to be a little splashier. It looks a little plain. I just took a random banner I found on the wiki and put it on the top. It doesn't really work. And I said, you know what? I think this might be a good, candidate for this little project I want to do. So she's like, yeah, go for it. So what I did is to kind of give a little bit of direction, right? Because it's hard if somebody says fix this and they don't really give you a direction, like where do you want me to, what needs to be fixed? Because you don't really want to insult someone's baby. Right? But at the same time, you don't want to do enough, you don't want to avoid doing the work that really needs to get done either. So what I did is I took Mel's document and just, I used external, if anybody's used that, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but it's a really cool free software PDF editor. And I just sort of took notes on the top, like, just little suggestions that if somebody wanted to do a revision of the visual design here, they could take. And a contributor, Jeff Van Schendel, who is an industrial design student in the Netherlands, he pretty much responded to the request right away. He said, hey, I've been wanting to get involved in free software for a long time. I want to take this on. So I said, hey, this is your bounty. We've claimed it. You have 48 hours to make some progress. Right? You didn't have to finish it in 48 hours, but at least show a bit of a commitment to getting it done. And I think actually in less than 48 hours, this is just a couple pages. It's like an 8-page document. He turned around this very nicely formatted version of the document, and he had taken some of the suggestions. He had also come up with some interesting ideas, like he did sort of a cool floaty 3D screenshot thing, and he took all the screenshots himself. So, that was really good, and he provided it in print-ready format. I sent it off to Mel, and she was like, wow, that worked. And I sent him a Ninja supply kit. We call the people who answer these the design bounty ninjas. So we actually awarded him Ninja Ship, sent him a Ninja kit of lots of swag for the project, just, because he should feel good about what he did. He actually contributed to our project and helped us meet a deadline. So we've done some other bounties. I'll talk a little bit later about why we haven't done as many as I really would have wanted to. But actually, Emily in the audience contributed to this one. We had sort of the very bare bones presentation template. And it had been one of those things for a long time. People in the Fedora project were always asking, do you have a slide presentation template that I could use? I want to talk about Fedora. We didn't. So we put together some specs, and Emily came out with a great format with all the different page designs you might want. So that worked out really well. And I'll talk a little bit more about Emily later. And then this is another project that we had. We had a sort of a, I think actually the story was we missed the deadline for Google Summer of Code, but we still wanted coding students over the summer. So we put together a little bit of budget, and then we had a project called Fedora Students Contributing. So they needed a t-shirt design. So in a similar manner, we put together the specs, and we put it out there as a bounty, and a fellow named Christian put together a great design for us for a t-shirt, and he submitted it all print ready. And these are all, every time somebody fulfills a bounty, they get a little ninja, and they have their ninja number. So Jeff is number 1, and Ray is number 2, Christian is number 3. And what's kind of cool, Jeff actually ended up being my intern for a semester, and he helped me with the Fedora project that we're redesigning. You might have noticed over the past year or so, we've had a completely new web presence, and he was a big part of that. So, he went on from this kind of small, well-defined task to being kind of enabled and trained in the community to actually designer of the Media Goblin project, which if you're not familiar with, you should be, because it's a really awesome free software media server. So, he's moved on to other great projects. We now have sort of a new productive member of the general community. And, Media Goblin is not part of Fedora, that's cool with me. As long as we have more designers in the community, I don't care what project they're affiliated with. Emily is now my cube mate at Red Hat, and she's working on a very cool Panda-powered software project called OpenShift, which uses free software virtualization under the hood to enable sort of cloud-based web applications, which is really kicking butt there. So, again, we have a very productive community member now out of this just very small task. Christian moved on. It happens. I don't think that everybody who gets involved in a project like this is going to find that it's maybe the sort of thing they want to do. And that's cool. At least they learn something. At least they know a little bit more about free software. And maybe they have friends that might talk about it and they'd be interested. So I think, it's okay that people move on. And, who knows, you might even be involved in a different project and I just know you're not aware about it. So, just sort of to summarize, once you give somebody sort of the introduction, once you give them sort of a little bit of orientation, you'd be really surprised how many awesome people who are out there who are very qualified to make your project a success if you just take the first step in getting them involved. And then just the second point is, if one of your ninjas moves on, that's cool because you have somebody else now in the community who has some of the basic skills that they need to be successful, and they can go on to help other projects, which is positive for everyone. So, and I hope I'm not running too much over time. This is sort of how specifically I build these bounties. I'm going to walk through the first one that we wrote up, kind of call out the important points I think that maybe help to make this work. And then I'll talk a little bit about some of the implications. So what I did is, I have a blog that's syndicated on a lot of free software blog planets, right? I'm on Planet Fedora, Planet Gnome, Graphics Planet, just a bunch of planets that are sort of affiliated with free software communities, so the word can get out. When I post one of these, I also put it on Identica. I also put it on Twitter. I know, I'm sorry. But just anywhere that I think that designers might be hanging out. And the first thing you want to do, I think, you don't want to just say, hey, I need this done, do it. You really want to set the stage, right? Like when you tell someone, hey, this is something that needs to be done, you want to show them where it fits in sort of the greater message, the greater vision of the project. So I think what's a good idea is to start out and say, here's the situation, here's the problem we need to solve. And kind of set the stage, this is where you come in. This is where you solve the problem and save the day. So then you have to specifically, and I don't know if you can see it because where it is on the screen, but state the mission that they have. This is what I want you to do exactly, concisely and shortly, so they know very clear what their line of responsibility is and what they have been empowered to do. And then I think what's good is to provide a clear example. This is the sort of thing we're looking for you to do. And what I did with this bounty is I did that marked up early non-design draft, just to show this is sort of a tangible thing. It's kind of close to what we're looking for, but we want you to fix it. So that it's clear sort of what the delivery item is going to be, right? And then provide resources and tools, and also tips, like what is the general process or approach you would suggest? And I actually see a lot of coding tasks omit this step, which I think is bad. They're just like, well, I need somebody to implement this API call, blah, 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 blah. How would you go about doing it? Let's just, it'll take you, 5 minutes, just outline. What would step A be? I mean, would you, go to this part of the code? Would you go to that part of the code? What would step B be? Would you test it? Would you write test cases? Or would you do this or that? And I'm sure that I'm talking nonsense because I'm not a coder, but you see what I mean? Just give people a general approach. This is the process that I suggest that you follow to be successful. And that's a good place to do it. And then outline the benefits. I mean, we all know that free software is awesome, but maybe this person is new to free software. Maybe they're just getting started, and it's not obvious to them what all the benefits are. So, talk about that. Say, these are the exact skills you're going to learn. For this one, you're going to learn document layout skills. You're going to learn color management skills because you need to format it for the printer in the right color space. We outline different things that you would gain. We also offer themes. So one of the stipulations here that we were giving people is if you complete this successfully, you're a bona fide member of the Fedora design team, you get voting rights in Fedora elections, and of course you get a nice packet of swag. So, let people know what they're going to get out of it. And honestly, I don't even think the swag is as important as sort of the skills and connections with the community that you make. But, make that clear, 'cause it's not always obvious. Cool graphics. I just, being a designer, maybe I'm a little biased here, but I think that if you have catchy graphics, it'll catch people's attention rather than this sort of very wordy thing that looks very complex. If you make it look fun and lighthearted, people are going to get the feeling that, hey, I'm going to have fun doing this. So it sort of helps, make the right impression. And ground rules and contact info. This is really important too. And the final section is almost like, hey, you're all excited, you're ready to do this, what's next? So this is the section where I'll say, it needs to be done in open source software, free software, right? It needs to be done in an open standard format. If you need help, here's where you go to contact. If you want a critique or a sanity check, here's a mentor, here's a person you can contact to get help. These are all important things because you don't want to just get someone all fired up about doing something, give them an assignment, and then give them absolutely no support once they start, working on it. So it's important to set some ground rules, and let them know this is what you're responsible for. I'm empowering you to get it done. Don't let anybody get in your way. Here's someone you can contact if you need any assistance. So it's a little bit of a summary of everything that I've said. I just thought it would be important to have the slides down with them. And don't forget to give your ninjas props, right? I mean, they're doing something really awesome. Get the word out there that, hey, we got this new person in our community. Look what they did. It's really cool. So what I did is, as sort of a follow-up to the original blog post, was that I showed off the work that Jeff did. And I said, hey, look what he did. And then we also kind of did a little trophy for him. It's a little cut off on his, the way the browser was scrolling, but hey, new ninja number one is Jeff. And it kind of makes him feel like he's a part of the community. It makes you feel like you're included. It's all major blog plan. And hey, look, this person did this. But all that being said, that all sounds well and nice and good, right? But remember this guy? So it's really hard to write these. That's the only thing. I actually wrote one up last night and I watched it. If anybody is interested in getting involved in open source free software, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I'm trying really hard. If anybody wants to get involved in free software, you can go to the Bounty website right now. There's an open bounty that you can claim. And the only thing is that when I wrote it up last night, it took me like 4 hours to write it. It's a time investment. And when you're busy and you have a lot of stuff going on, it's a time investment. For me to take 4 hours to write up the bounty, I could have done the thing that the bounty is for in probably a lesser amount of time. But that's not the point, right? The point's not to optimize my time. The point is, it's an investment for the future, right? Like, I'm in a bind because we don't have so many designers, so there's too much of a workload. But that's not going to get fixed by me optimizing my time because there's an upper limit on how much you can do that. The best way to prepare your project for the future and to grow your project to be successful is to have new recruits, to have new faces and new people bringing new perspectives to your project and to bring new ideas. You can't do it all. So when you take aside a block of 4 hours to do something like this, what you're doing is you're investing in your project's future, and you're ensuring that you're going to be able to do more things because you're going to have more people to work on them, and you're setting people up, you're setting the stage to make them successful. So that's what I got, and this is a URL that I set up, a short URL, if you wanted to see the latest design bounty, or if you wanted to look through any of the older ones and just kind of get a feel for the format, get a feel for the process. If you have any questions, I don't know, it's just about 11 now, but maybe we can take 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anybody has questions, let me know. I'll be hanging around today. So.
Did they get easier to write as you go along? Like, it seems like maybe the first one would take longer, and then they would,
Yeah. Well, the latest one took 4 hours. The initial one probably took longer than that, but once you have the first one done, what I do is I copy and paste the last one in, and then I update the details, so I use it as a template. So that does make the process faster. But what takes the majority of the time is sort of researching the problem. Like, okay, so you need a new design for this flyer, or you need a new design for slides or a t-shirt. I did the work to sort of research, well, what are the specs? I called the t-shirt company and said, how wide are the margins for your t-shirt designs? what color space, that kind of stuff. And you kind of do that initial research because people get excited about doing the actual process of design, and that kind of stuff is more administrative, so get that out of their way, set them up so that they can get straight to the fun stuff and, do it that way, so, yeah.
Is the administrative burden causing market developers from investigating, for instance, the design and tracking designers for projects?
I think it may. I think another part of it is, I found this actually yesterday. I was in a conversation with someone who's a Node developer, and I was giving them feedback about something that they had posted about, and I was going off the screenshots, right? And he's like, "You didn't build it, did you? You didn't try it." I don't have a Node testing environment set up, and I used to know that years ago, but I don't have it set up, so it would take him maybe 30 seconds. It would take me probably hours of effort. So, I mean, I think a lot of times, especially people who are technically minded, they sort of think you already know because it's so easy for them. But for someone like me, who's just, I'm not in that every day on a daily basis, it's actually quite a large hurdle. So, I think that's part of it too, is they just sort of assume people know a lot more than they do, and they don't want to sit down and write it because they'd rather do fun stuff. So, which is fun.
Hey, so I know we had at least one bounty that didn't work out. It might be helpful to kind of talk about like what you learned from that.
Wait, the one that Christian did, or was there another one?
The one that was the Timpy T-shirt that started out as a bounty.
Oh, okay, that's right. I don't remember all the. Do you want to talk about it? I don't remember all the details.
I came in late in the process.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So we had a FudCon event, and we made the T-shirt design a bounty. And I think what happened is the person they fell through. They just kind of disappeared. So Emily came in and she did actually a really awesome design for the shirt. I think the problem there was that we had a really hard deadline, so we couldn't be flexible. So I would suggest maybe a lesson to learn from that is, if you have a very short deadline, like this T-shirt needs sketches and pictures in 2 weeks, this might not be the right kind of project for that. The students contributing T-shirt design, we actually had several months for that, so there was no rush. So it wasn't like one of those things where, one person got overwhelmed, or we can't find another person to take a bounty, and so we have to come in. You kind of don't want to do that, because it sort of shows that you don't trust the people or you're trying to get involved. So it was bad, but at the same time, like Emily was a new contributor at the time, so she kind of came in and saved the day, so that's a good thing too. So, just consider what are the timelines of the project. Don't put too much stress and too much on the shoulders of your very brand new contributors, because they already got a lot on their plate, figuring out how your community works, figuring out the best ways to communicate, just figuring out the culture of your community. That's a huge burden. You don't want to put any more than that on.
Is the bounty assigned to one person, just the first person who comes along?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay. So what I do is I say, okay, the first person to claim this in the blog comment, it's yours. You have 48 hours. Make some progress. If you decide, oh, you don't have the time, we'll open it back up. So, and I don't think we ever had to open it back up. The first person always completed it, except for that one exceptional situation that I just mentioned. And I don't know if that's the best way to do it, because that is sort of based on, well, what time zone were you in, and what time was it when you posted the blog? Isn't that kind of unfair? And, like last night I posted at 1 or 2 a.m., so maybe somebody in Asia would have a good chance, maybe somebody in Europe would have a good chance. But, that's another thing too, maybe it should be time-based. Maybe it should be that, we let people do initial proposals and then do whoever does the best proposal does the full thing. But I kind of don't like that idea too, because then you're rejecting the other people, and it's almost like a competition. And I always feel like with design class, when you set people up to compete, they tend to, instead of working together, sort of split their efforts, when if they had only worked together, it would have been something awesome. So that's why we didn't do it that way to start, but there could be some better idea. If anybody has ideas on how we could better select the ninja to take on the task, I'd love to hear them.
What do you think about the idea of using the traditional programming method of instead of going out and creating specifications, basically inviting the designers in and going to design communities and bringing them in, to then invite them to work on whatever they want in order for them to have an introduction into the community. And then once they're in the community, then you can go to them with tasks and go, okay, I know that you're good at this particular kind of work. What do you feel about doing next?
Well, so I worry about giving people too much of an open slate just because, for example, they might, not intentionally walk into a minefield, and we don't want them to blow up. We also, we want to make sure that the projects that we're assigning them, the people who are responsible and sort of have the power in that, and I know that's going to be a weird way to put it, but the people who have the power to get things done are the people who are supportive of the bounty. Because, I could sit here and I could say, yeah, I want you to do this thing for the kernel. I'm not even part of the kernel community. I have no check-in access or anything like that. So you don't want to promise too much to people and then have them very disappointed when nothing they did came out because nobody who could enable them to make it happen was on board. There's another question?
Do you have a political problem in developing a bounty that somebody who's already in the design community, in your community, might think, oh, I would have done that. Why are we offshoring it?
Well, so pretty much for every bounty that we've posted, it's been something that's been brought up either on the design team mailing list or in the design team IRC channel meetings. It's something that we try to think about, like, oh, would that make a good bounty? Would that make a good bounty? So we do kind of come to a consensus that, yeah, this project would make a good, bounty project. We'll put it out there. So it's one of those things where, it's a task that's maybe fun to do, but, we know somebody else can handle it and be successful. You don't have to be so entrenched in the community to be a success at it. So actually the rest of the team has been on board with these. So, and because I think everybody understands we do really want more designers and kind of new blood in the community. I could see it being a problem though if somebody went and posted stuff without telling anybody else. So I think it's really important to communicate with the other members involved that, hey, I'm going to do this, call first dibs if you want me to do it. It's a really good point. Okay, so it's 6 after, so I think I might have taken a little bit too much time, but thanks for listening to me ramble. I hope you learned something that's going to be useful for you. And again, if you want to get involved, there is a perfect opportunity right there. So thanks.